I think the fact that I'm coming from such a small culture is one of the defining elements. You know, you grow up in a place where you do your best. You move pretty easily through whatever you're supposed to do, you know, the education, and then you meet people, you have great performers, you realize that you feel fine and safe. And I think this is the moment that was really important when I realized that there is no space in a country that's as small as Serbia after all the wars or during the wars as they were happening at that time. The country that I was born in shrank. It became much smaller. The contacts were cut off, and I realized I had to leave. And when I left, I thought I would be back. You know, I thought, okay, I need a place where I can breathe a little more, where I can really see who I am, and where it doesn't feel so safe in terms of knowing the rules of the game and knowing all great composers. In my country, you know, we all know each other. When you're planted or replanted from your own environment, I realized there are all those energies and all those resources that I wasn't using living in my own country. In San Francisco, what happened to me and to many of my friends at the conservatory where we were was some incredible liberation, the feeling that everything is possible and that creatively everything is also acceptable. And this is something that I didn't grow up with when I was in Serbia. You know, we had stylistically very rigid, strict rules or expectations, like what is a piece of music at the end of the 20th century. So coming to San Francisco, it was really incredible because we were all very active, you know, connecting, playing music, going to the San Francisco Symphony concerts where it was extremely vibrant. And also there was that whole scene of people organizing into smaller ensembles and also including music that is not the classical music as I was used to it. So even when I talk to you about it now, I feel like I'm telling you things that you know. But for me, coming from the country that was having its own musical aesthetic, that was very heavily based on what was happening in Europe at that time, for me, it was a huge, huge discovery. I did become aware of my roots much more after I moved here, and I think it's a common phenomenon. People realize where they're from once they leave the place where they're from. So coming to the States, I think it was a factor of first of all realizing that I am coming from a different place, that this is this is an incredible resource, that kind of music and all the experience, not of one lifetime, but of generations of generations listening to a specific kind of music and making specific kind of music, that just because of the war and because of the cultural climate among musicians, that I shouldn't really give it up. And the question is actually a little more complicated, because when I was growing up, the years when I was at the university, the war started. And the war was initiated by nationalists. So all of us, I mean, I certainly didn't want to be associated with that. So it was really not an option to use any kind of material that would remind you of your own cultural, national background, because that meant that you sided with people who use that, who are at the same source, and they are using it for political reasons. So that was a big question. Even when I came to the States, when I realized that the kind of music and the tradition that I'm coming from and that I'm interested in, it was a big, almost ethical question. Like, do I really want to go into that, knowing for what kinds of things it was used? I mean, leaving and then going back, it's a philosophical question, because what you do once you deroot yourself and plant somewhere else, you're basically becoming an outsider in your place of origin, and for a while you're an outsider in the place where you want to become a part of the community or environment or whatever it is. I think that the relationship now is great, because I established myself as somebody who is on the outside, but at the same time it's clear that those are my roots, and that I really see them as pure. It's an incredible resource. It's fresh, and it's deep, and it's really like a well where there is no end. You know, you can take from it and renew whatever you do.